recently I read like only 16% of veterans actually use the VA loan, which blows my mind. And I think a couple of reasons. One is lack of awareness, and two are the misconceptions about the VA loan that really hang people up and prevent them from using this benefit.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions you hear about VA loans?
When sellers see that, they're like, oh, 0% down, that must mean the veteran doesn't have any money and they're not going to qualify and this deal is going to fall through. These people are putting their lives on the line for our country. So I think the least we can do is allow them to have a loan product to get in a property without any down. So that's one of the big reasons. And the second one is,
after hearing that only 16% of veterans use their VA loan benefit, you realize how big the education gap really is. And today's guest is someone who has dedicated her career and her life to closing that gap. She's a West Point graduate, a former Army officer, an Army spouse, a veteran who understands the military lifestyle from the inside out, the constant moves, the unpredictability, and the sacrifices. And when she transitioned into real estate back in 2006, something became clear fast. Veterans needed someone who could speak their language and fight for the benefits they earn. Meet Sunny Alexander, the broker owner of a veteran-owned and operated boutique brokerage in Tampa, Florida, helping service members, military families, and retired veterans build wealth through home ownership with confidence, clarity, and the right guidance. This conversation is going to make you a better agent, a better advisor, and a better advocate for the people who serve our country. So let's jump right in.
Hello, Sunny, and welcome to the Icons of Real Estate podcast. I'm so excited about this episode. There's a lot to learn here, and I want to start with a little quick background check. And what is your connection to helping veterans?
well, that goes back almost, gosh, it's crazy to say, almost 30 years. I grew up in Spring, Texas. My family, we didn't have a lot. I was a talented soccer player, and I was recruited to play for West Point, which is the United States Military Academy. Once you graduate from West Point, you then serve active duty. So although military wasn't in my plan, my soccer talent got me into a school that really changed my life. I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college. And after I graduated from West Point, I served active duty for 6 total years. I met my husband at Fort Bragg, jumping out of perfectly good airplanes together. I called it Lieutenant Love. And I got out after 6 years, and he stayed in the military for 22 years. As an Army spouse, it is very difficult to build a career within like when I say regular job. Real estate always appealed to me because the better you are, the harder you work, the more successful you are. So I got into real estate when I got out of the Army, and that was in 2006. And just became a natural evolution for me to work with veterans because, I am a veteran. My husband was active duty. We were living the lifestyle. So for me to, serve my buyers and sellers when they're active duty or even retired, it was just a natural fit. Fast forward, gosh, I don't want to be one of those agents that say, I've been in the business for 20 years, but I'm really knocking on that door. I'll be there here in a couple of years. Fast forward 20-ish years, my husband and I decided to open our own brokerage. It is veteran owned and operated. I have a amazing business partner who is also a veteran. He's also a West Point grad. He's a little younger than me, although he pokes fun at me for being the old one. And we're just a boutique brokerage here in Tampa, Florida. And a lot of our customers are veterans. Again, I have found in real estate that the demographic that you personally are, you can serve that demographic better just because you know the life. It's in your bones. So we're trying to, service every veteran that comes through Tampa, MacDill Air Force Base, and we're just loving life. So To answer your question, how did I get here? It's all started with playing soccer. And, 30 years later, here I sit in Tampa, Florida, and it's been quite a ride, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else.
Awesome. So now I'm confused. Are we talking about then? Maybe we should talk about soccer then, because I mean I can talk about soccer for 5 hours. Um, Obviously, the researchers are in the niches, right? And for a real estate agent to be able to focusing on one is quite important for even establishing themselves as a brand, right? As having an ideal avatar and having a persona that they can build and promote, right? And obviously, like you have the background that checks with dealing with and connecting with veterans, and of course you'll do business with them, and you'll be way more ready to do business with them than a real estate agent that maybe has maybe more experience but never even dealt with one before, right? So what I want to go and dive deep today is on the VA loans, okay? And before we get into, let's call it maybe the expert advice and everything that we can do with it, I want to understand the basics, okay? It's kind of like the offside rule in soccer. Like let's start with that, right? So what exactly is a VA loan and who qualifies for it?
So a VA loan is for veterans. It is a earned benefit. In terms of what it is a 0% loan to loan 0% down. So a veteran can borrow on. There's been new regulations. 2019 came a new act, and we can dive into that later. That's a little bit more complex. But a VA loan is simply it's a simple product. The veteran doesn't have to put anything down. The interest rate is a little bit lower than conventional because it's federally backed, and the debt to income and the credit score, they're more liberal on. So more people, it's the criteria to get the loan is not as strict as one for a conventional loan. So it's a great product. A lot of people look at, because it's the 0% down, a lot of non-veterans or civilians kind of get hung up on that because they say there's no skin in the game for the buyer. I can dive into that later, but fiscally speaking, it's a great product. And if you're a veteran or and or representing a veteran, it's important to educate them on this earned benefit. So, to answer your question, 0% down, lower interest rate, and the debt to income and the credit score, they're more lenient on it because they want to get veterans in a home. There's so much turbulence and movement and displacement of veterans, across the country, every couple of years. So what we can do as a nation is provide an opportunity for a veteran to have their own home wherever they're at. And there's different techniques where you can build wealth using your VA loan. But simply put, it's a great product that I think every veteran should use. Recently, I read like only 16% of veterans actually use the VA loan, which is blows my mind. And I think it's a couple of reasons. One is lack of awareness, and two are the misconceptions about the VA loan that really hang people up and prevent them from using this benefit.
16%. That's crazy. That's really just lack of information out there, and lack of not even that it's their fault that they're not using the product. It's as well on the people listening to this episode as well, real estate agents that they might not be aware on how they can navigate via loans or if they even exist, right? So I think this episode here is being something very good for maybe we'll improve that 16%. And
Yeah,
thank you for covering the basics, Sunny. I think we got a really good gist of it. When it comes to those misconceptions, right? I feel like we need to tackle them before we go and break down the process, and before we go and break down, like building wealth with it, because I want to take the misconceptions from the get go, right? So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions like you hear about VA loans?
Two primary, and I address those, is that 0% down. When sellers see that, they're like, oh, 0% down, that must mean the veteran doesn't have any money and they're not going to qualify and this deal is going to fall through. Or 0% down means they don't have any skin in the game. They're not serious enough. Again, those two, like the skin in the game, that gets under, my skin, because the veteran, again, it's an earned benefit. These people are putting their lives on the line for our country. So I think the least we can do is allow them to have a loan product to get in a property without any down. So that's one of the big reasons. And the second one is the VA appraisal process. That has improved greatly over the years. In the past, the VA appraisal process, these appraisals were coming in low and or they were coming in with repairs. So I want to explain the difference between, because some people are like, well, the VA sends an inspector out to the property and they do. I literally, one day, an agent, and I'm not kidding you, told me a VA appraiser will chip paint off the wall and see if it's lead paint. Like, they do not do that. So they don't, what they're looking for is property minimum standards. So in a transaction in Florida, which I can speak in detail about, I don't know about other states, but a transaction in Florida, you have a home inspection that is not associated with the VA appraisal. And then you have an appraiser who is certified by the VA. So these are normal appraisers with more, they have to have, I believe, 5 years on job to get that certification, that will go, they're experienced. The VA appraiser goes in and it appraises the property to make sure it's at contract or above contract, or if it's low, we can talk about that in a few minutes. But what they're also looking for is the property minimum standards. And a lot of people get hung up on this, on that part. They think that they're going to nitpick the house. And they're simply, I'm not seeing that in my market. What they're looking for is safety of the home. Is the home safe? They're cracked windows. Is there like open electrical splices? So they're looking at safety. A big item that comes up for us is chipped paint. I mean, if you think about it, chipped paint on the exterior of the home, it does impact the integrity of the home because it's not protected fully. But that where a lot of people get hung up is at 0% down and a VA appraisal coming in low with repairs. We are not seeing that. Things have gotten a lot better. And anytime, this is what's unique about the VA loan. When you have an appraisal on the other type of loan products, conventional or FHA, if the appraisal comes in low, the appraisal is submitted. It's just submitted in low. For VA appraisals, the appraiser, what he or she does is called Tidewater. And what Tidewater means is the appraiser is having a difficult time getting to the contract price. And they're giving us a red flag saying, I need assistance in getting to contract price. So once Tidewater, if the appraiser's having a hard time coming to value, once Tidewater is called, then the agents and the lender work together to submit additional comps and narratives to help get that VA appraisal up to contract price. No other loan product allows the agents or lenders to assist in getting the appraisal up to value. Again, I don't know if you may not have heard this story. It's cheesy, but I'm going to tell you anyways. It's like a fable about an old man like walking down the beach and he's throwing a starfish in the ocean. And like the beach was littered with starfish. And a little guy was behind him, was like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm just throwing the starfish in. And he's like, you're not going to be able to get all of them. He's like, but I'm getting this one and I'm throwing it in. I'm saving that starfish. So that's how I see like educating agents that I work with. I'm helping one starfish at a time understand that the VA loan is a really easy product to close. And with that is educating them on the appraisal specifically, because listing agents Their job is to get to the closing table. And if you have an offer that you feel doesn't set your seller up for success as a listing agent, it's your job to protect your customer. But at the end of the day, the appraisal process has gotten so much better since like 2004. They've made some huge progress on it. And like I said, the repairs or the VA inspector doesn't exist. It's the appraiser, and they're simply looking for property minimum standards, which I think is important for any loan. You want to make sure that the home is, safe, and nothing is impacting the integrity of the home.
Yeah, it's just minimum standards. And
Yeah.
I, I did like your fable about the starfish. I would just say if the starfish would have the idea of maybe having a podcast, maybe they would clean the beach a little bit quicker,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
words will come out, with a bigger reach, which is what we're doing here on the podcast. So on the two things, right, that you were saying with the misconceptions, I want to tackle those two. Like the first one, and I really just want to close this, right? So zero down payment, it sounds amazing. Are there any even catches?
I guess you can say it's a catch. The VA loan it's called a funding fee. And a funding fee is for the first time use is 2.15%. So the VA funding fee is lumped into the loan. So for math, yeah. So if it's $100,000 loan, what is that? 21, whatever you add it, 20. Yeah, you add that
2000, sorry.
to,
2000.
yeah, 2,000. Your loan amount will be 102,000. So, and then second use is 3.3%. However, once you retire or you're out of the army and you have disability that's 10% or more, that funding fee is completely waived. So if I to answer your question, I would categorize that kind of as a catch. It is lumped into the loan amount, and it's financed over 30 years. They What's good about Another good thing about the VA loan is with any other loan product, conventional, let's use conventional, if you put less than 20% down, you're going to have PMI, mortgage insurance. The VA loan doesn't have PMI. It never does. That funding fee is what kind of replaces the PMI and also kind of protects it's federally backed. So they're going to get a little bit of that, and they use that for the funding fee.
Nice. See, I like how transparent we're being, right?
Yeah.
We're saying, all of the good things that we would put, like on account of promoting it with marketing. But I mean, it's good to understand, I wouldn't call it like a hidden catch, because I wouldn't say that
Yeah.
it's negative, like, and even uh, at the least it is understandable, right? That they put it like a funding fee that acts on the loan. So thanks for letting us know that, Sunny. And on the second one, you were talking about the appraisals, right? And I feel that there's a myth as well that VA loans are harder for sellers, right, to accept, because it may take longer to close, right? So is that one thing that it might be on people's minds, that it takes longer to close?
There is the misconception, there is, but I will say with 100% certainty, it does not take longer to close. I have closed a VA loan in 3 weeks. It is important to link up with a lender, which I have amazing lender that knows the VA loan inside and out. But the VA loan does not take longer to close than a conventional or FHA. Bottom line, full stop.
All right. For any doubts, all right, you heard it here. All right. Doesn't take longer. Stop whining about it. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
uh all right. Last myth here that I want to unravel, before we go and we break down the process a little bit better, is it true that VA loans can't be used for investment properties?
You are correct. VA loans cannot be used for investment properties. Here is a little tidbit, though, and I'm getting into the weeds. So, VA loans are assumable. Anytime you have a VA loan, it's assumable, right? A veteran or non-veteran can assume it. There's some nuances, and you need to go in with wise eyes wide open. If like for example, I have a listing. It's a VA loan assumable. The delta between the loan amount and the purchase or the list price is not locked. It's in Riverview. If anybody wants to buy it, I would love to sell it to you. Um, an investor can assume that loan as an investment property. So the only time an investor can use the VA loan is as an assumption of an existing VA loan on a property. Does that make sense? Because that's a very and I just recently learned that, and it's really a great, selling point if you look at it, because a VA loan in this property that I have, the interest rate is stupid low. A VA loan, you're gonna have a lower interest rate, and as an investor, if you can scoop that up with that lower interest rate, you're going to cash flow. It just it makes sense. But to answer your question, VA loans, no, you cannot use them to purchase an investment property.
Perfect. We're getting to the weeds here.
Yeah,
And
that's really in the weeds. Yeah, and like I said, I just learned that. I had no idea.
yeah, and I mean, it goes. I think real estate agents, are one of the professions and businesses that you do need to be constantly aware of new changes, new updates, being that in legal matters, being that with marketing, being that with initiatives, right? And even you, Sunny, with all of your experience, right? Like you're learning this, right? So um again, full on education is very important. On moving, as we uncovered almost all the myths, right? Uh, all the ghosts of the VA loans. Let's break down the process, right? Can you walk us through, the step by step process of actually getting a VA loan, from that pre approval to the closing.
So, going back to what I said a few moments ago about linking up with a lender that knows the VA loan, that is the besides finding an agent, finding a team that knows the VA loan is imperative, because there can become sticky situations with, the appraisals always, it doesn't matter what kind of loan it is, you can always encounter challenges there. But linking up with a veteran, and the first thing that lender needs to do is pull the certificate of eligibility. Some lenders do not pull that, which blows my mind. But pulling that certificate of eligibility, what that means is does the veteran have enough eligibility for that house? And it's a pretty complex math problem. A good like dumb math around you can essentially purchase a home $600,000, or excuse me, your VA eligibility is roughly, and I know people may hate on me for, I'm doing the very dumb math. But let's say you purchased a home in Texas for 200,000. You'll have um, roughly $400,000 left to purchase another home. But again, it is a complex math problem that I'm happy to, share it with your audience. But the first thing they do is they pull that certificate of eligibility. Is that VA loan tied up anywhere else? So that's the first thing. And then once they figure out there is eligibility enough, then they go through the normal, pre-approval process. Going back to the earlier in this episode, we talked about it's a little bit, the more forgiving on the debt to income and the credit score. So you're as a veteran, you're going to do the same thing you would do as a conventional or FHA. You work with the lender, you provide them documents, and underwriters will ask you for some crazy documents. And then you simultaneously you link up with an agent. I am always stomping my feet about making sure veterans link up with an agent that knows the VA loan. That is so because some agents, believe it or not, because of the misconception, it's not their fault, but because of the misconceptions, they'll try to talk veterans out of using the VA loan. And that again, just it's going back to that starfish, like one at a time. Just got to do one. You just got to do your part to try to educate everyone. But linking up with an agent, and then once you have all of that squared away, then I call it the fun part, shopping. You go shopping, you look at houses, right? You identify the one, and your agent. I know what Mike, my business partner, and myself, when we're showing a house with a veteran, we always have our eye out for that property minimum standards too. So if I see chip paint, I just note it. It's not a showstopper, but I'll in the back of my head, I'm like, ooh, that might pop up. But once we're under contract, it's the same basic process as conventional in FHA. I'm in Florida. The first thing is, your deposit, and same as regular, and then the home inspection. Once we're past the home inspection, then that lender will order the appraisal. Now, this is where it's a little bit different, and it's transparent to the veteran. But I think as agents, it's important for us to know. The lender is not ordering the appraisal through it. It's called an AMC, Appraisal Management Company. It's like a big pool of appraisers, and they pick them out randomly. Normal loans, lender would order the appraisers through the AMC. For a VA loan, they order it through the VA system. So again, going back to these VA appraisers are just normal appraisers with additional experience and education to be able to appraise a home for a veteran. So that's like, again, that's completely transparent to the veteran. They won't have a clue that that's happening. But as an agent, it's important to know that small nuance. Once the appraisal is in, and most 99.9% of the time, the appraisers are fine. They're completely fine. Once that appraisal's in, then they close on the property. So there's really not any extra steps the the buyer needs to take, or the seller needs to take. The extra steps are behind the scenes with the lender, and working with an agent, and we're collaborating, if we see something that's kind of a red flag at the house, to kind of give them a heads up. But in terms of the veteran, it's it's just like buying a house with a conventional or FHA loan.
Nice. Yeah, it doesn't need to scare anyone. It does seem pretty, straightforward. On
Yeah.
you were talking about earlier about an update from 2019 or 2009. I want to check if this can be also like this is already being a source of information indication for agents wanting to know more about VA loans. But as there been any recent updates or changes to the VA loan program that
Yeah.
buyers and real estate agents should know about, and they're gonna hear it here for the first time?
Well, hopefully it's not the first time. 2019, they passed. I'm going to kind of botch the title. It's the Vietnam Veterans Act. I forget. It's a long title.
Hmm.
Essentially, it was passed in 2019 and went effective 2020. And what that did is, before, for a VA loan, you have like you have loan limits until you go to like a jumbo loan. And those loan limits they're increased each year. Right now in the US, that loan limit is at 806. So let's say, for this, in discussing this change, let's just use that as an example. Before 2020, veteran could only use their VA loan with 0% down to that loan limit of 806. And it's determined by county. Most counties are at 806,000. Higher end counties are 1.2 million. So before 2020, if I was a veteran and I identified a house that was $1 million, I'm going to use easy math. Okay. I could only get my VA loan with 0% down up to $800,000, 806 in this example. Anything over like that $200,000 delta, in the past, I would have to put 25% down to use my VA loan. That has been erased. So as a veteran, if you qualify, you can qualify. I mean, it depends on the lender, because the lender's going to have limits, obviously, but you can qualify for $2-3 million with 0% down. So that was a big, big change for veterans. And as the veteran gets older, they retire, they buy a more expensive house. So now there are no loan limits on the VA loan. With that change, the funding fee did increase slightly, and now it's, I forget what it was in the past, but now it's for the first use 2.15 and 3.3%. But that was a big change, and we are still seeing some agents. I've submitted offers for over that 806 threshold, and they're confused because they're like, "Oh, I thought there was a loan limits on VA." As long as the veteran qualifies, there are no loan limits on the VA, which is fantastic. It's really, really, yeah. I mean, 0% down, no PMI, and a lower interest rate. Tell me why you would not use that product if you had it. It just it blows my mind.
Well, hopefully it will start blowing your mind when this episode goes out there, and people will be all educated and preaching the VA loan product. And I want to hear from you then Sunny. Like, if real estate agent right there listening to us right now, for anyone lucky enough to still be on the audio, what is the next step if they want to find, the nitty gritty about VA loans? Is there a specific resource? Is there a specific certification that they can go through? What did you do when you had to educate yourselves? Like, what would be your best advice for real estate agents?
Link up with a lender that is a VA loan specialist. Bottom line. That is important. My lender is, I graduated from West Point. My lender is actually my classmate, Greg Tiley. He's a retired Apache pilot. Um, and but first and foremost is link up with a lender that knows the VA loan. And second, read. Just research. Every week I go in and I will use Ant Google, or now it's Chat GPT, any changes for the VA loan, any in the real estate market, because there have been some changes. And just recently, this is a whole other podcast, but the NAR settlement with the buyers paying the agent's compensation. In the past, a veteran couldn't pay their agent to represent them, but the VA has eliminated that with the new NAR settlement. So my best advice as an agent is link up with a lender that knows their stuff. There is a military relocation professional certification. My business partner, Mike, has that. I don't. I should take the time to get it. I've lived it. Like, it's like School of Hard Knocks. Since 2006, I've been doing the VA loan, and it's just it's allowed my family to build wealth, and it is near and dear to me. So I know that's a long way of saying find a good lender and read.
It doesn't seem that hard.
It's not.
And
It's not rocket science.
thank you for your non-rocket science advices, Sunny, and thank you for your easy math as well. Like, I that's my favorite type of math. And tell us, like, if people do want to connect with you, like, we have a lot of listeners in Florida as well. If people in Tampa, if people want to connect with you, I could get a hold of you.
Sunny, SU, like the weather, Sunny at Sunny Sells Tampa is my email. And Sunny L. Alexander is my Instagram. And Red Sash, RED Sash Realty.com. I'm super easy to get a hold of. I am a broker owner of my brokerage. I'm very active. You're not going to have to go through a 1-800 number to connect with me. Just, just reach out. And as any agents out there looking just to discuss, or again, it goes back to that starfish. I'm willing to get on the phone. It's just one at a time. We need to educate the consumer and the agents. And I really think the education starts with the agents. So I encourage everybody listening, link up with a good lender, reach out to me, Sunny Alexander in Tampa, Florida. Easy to Google, just Google me. And again, I'm happy to get on the phone and chat with it, because our veterans, they deserve it. It's an earned benefit. They fought for our country. They stood up. They deserve to use this product.
And yeah, let's save all the starfish. Let's save all the veterans from doing bad deals. And thank you so much, Sunny, from being on the Icons podcast. And I'll see you guys next week.